Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we are going over my top 5 historical ships. You see, all too often when it comes to World Warships and real-life ships, ships that were really constructed, served, and, built up a history about themselves, when they find their way into this game, unfortunately, in a lot of those cases, the ship is a little, underwhelming, to put it nicely. And usually the more, fantasy, paper ships tend to perform better than these real-life historical ships. So that's a bit of a travesty, in my opinion, anytime that does happen in this game. But these 5 historical ships do not suck, and they are quite very good in my humble opinion, and are well worth picking up if you ever have the chance to do so. They're not all premium ships. There are, there's one Techline ship in here, but that's besides the point. So these are 5 historical ships with some cool history behind them and that are well worth the money in my humble opinion. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get on into the list. And our first one, our number 5 pick, is the Tier 7 Premium British Battle Cruiser, the Renown 44. Man, it was such a big surprise to me that the Renown 44 actually turned out to be just such a rock star of a ship. You see, the Renown is already in the game as a Techline ship in the British Battlecruiser Techline, but it wasn't the completed refit version of the Renown, and because of that, it was very subpar. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't really great. It was just kind of a completely mid ship. But then Wargaming came out sometime later and gave us the Renown 44 as a premium ship, and even gave it away for free during one of the dockyard events. I can't remember which one it was, but she was a free midpoint dockyard ship. So Renown 44 has 6 15-inch guns bolted to a battle cruiser hull with a speed boost, a fast cooldown repair party, and her hull-mounted torpedoes. And her secondary suite is intact, which gives you a very nice, aggressive Tier 7 battleship. And she also has much better armor than I was really expecting from a Tier 7 battlecruiser, because this ship is already really maneuverable. She has 6 15-inch guns, which at Tier 7, you're talking about guns that can overmatch quite a bit of ships in that matchmaking bracket. So all that being bolted onto this ship with the torpedoes, the armor, and the speed and the maneuverability, I thought for sure that the armor was going to be very subpar, but indeed it is not. So you have a ship here that can be played quite aggressively and quite close to the enemy ships thanks to the torpedo tubes and the hydroacoustic search consumable and her maneuverability. But at the same time, when you need to be a little bit more passive at higher tier, you still have those 15-inch guns to fall back on. As far as Tier 7 battleships go, the Renown 44's accuracy is pretty solid when you take a look at other Tier 7 ships. Now, of course, you only have 6 guns instead of the 8 that most Tier 8 or more, that most Tier 7 battleships do come with. So this ship is a blast. She's super fun to play, and if you're a fan of course, the real-life Renown, rejoice here, because your ship got a really, really solid premium in the game. And like Tier 7 ranked, oh my god, Renown 44 all the way. She's carried me through more than a few seasons of Tier 7 ranked because of all the qualities that make her so nice. And again, just the torpedoes, the guns, the armor, the utility with the hydroacoustic search, it's great. And especially when we're in the age of submarines now, right? This is a ship, a battleship that can easily dance its way around submarine torps without any type of problem, right? Because of the 2-kilometer homing knockoff range that battleships get, combined with the speed buff the speed boost that the Renown gets on top of her already really solid maneuverability. So excellent ship here. If you're ever in the situation where you can acquire a Renown 44, I would encourage you to do so. Alright, we go on our way down now to our number 4 slot, which is the Tier 8 Premium Japanese Heavy Cruiser, the Atago, the second of the Takao class cruisers. And man, I've talked about the Atago a lot here on the channel. Anytime I'm talking about either like the best Tier 8 ships or the best premium cruisers, Atago is usually on the list because she is just such a good ship. So we won't spend too much time drabbling on about her in this video because of that. But yes, Atago, she's actually one of the, I believe actually the oldest premium ship in the game. This is the premium that replaced the Kitakami when the Kitakami was removed. I believe when the game got out of beta, might have been when the game got out of alpha, but when the game got out of beta, they removed the Kitakami and gave everyone that had the Kitakami the Atago instead. So this is a ship that is essentially as old as the game is, yet she is still, in my opinion, one of the best tier 8 premium cruisers that you can pick up. You get the accurate Japanese 203mm guns with the Japanese HE with their high alpha damage rating, which means that the shells do more damage, right? If you don't know what that means, and the improved Japanese fire chance. So these are HE shells that are accurate. They're going to go where you aim. They're going to do a lot of damage because, I mean, they're 203mm guns. They can pin quite a lot. And if they can't pin, they're probably going to be setting fires on the target because of her good HE alpha. You also get an incredible concealment rating of 9.9 kilometers if you build into it. That's right, this heavy cruiser has a sub 10 kilometer detection radius with the commander skill and the module. So that's great for being a nice stealthy little cruiser and disengaging when you need to. On top of that, she gets improved torpedo angles over other Japanese cruisers. You see, I started my Japanese cruiser experience with the Atago. I got her in, I think, a Santa container like several years ago, and I just never played her, right? Then I was like, well, you know, I hear a lot about the Japanese cruisers. Let me go give the Atago a whirl. And I played her, and she's not a whole lot dissimilar from the Japanese cruiser tech tree, but her torpedo tube angles are so much better. The Japanese heavy cruisers, their torpedo angles are essentially, you have to sail broadside to the enemy team in order to get them off, so they're absolutely miserable in most cases, but the Atago, you get a little bit more leeway there. However, just like the Japanese heavy cruisers, she does have a very funky armor scheme that does lead to her getting citadeled quite a bit, but with her good concealment and, once again, if you build into it, amazing maneuverability, she has, I believe, like a sub 3 second rudder shift time with both of the modules on, which is just absurdly maneuverable, right? She's a cruiser that can stay stealthy, get close up to the target to where her HE guns can really do some damage, and you can stealth torp as well with the Atago, thanks to her amazing concealment, so she can get in there, do those heavy strikes, zip on out of the situation. Absolutely terror if you run across one of these and you're in a similar tier destroyer because of the great accuracy on the guns and the high HE alpha damage that you get with the HE shells on the Atago. AP isn't really that much of a slouch either. Like, it's still 203mm guns, so if you find another cruiser going broadside or even like a thinly armored battleship, don't be afraid to use your AP and absolutely chunk the living crap out of the target ship. She too gets hydroacoustic search, which is once again a lifesaver in the world of submarines that we're living in today in higher tier games, right? So that is another big plus for the Atago. But yeah, again, really cool historical ship here, has aged amazingly well in the game. If you haven't got an Atago yet, absolutely you should pick one up. Now we go on our way down now to our number 3 slot, which is the tier 8 premium American aircraft carrier, the Hornet. The Hornet, fellas, I was very wrong about this ship when I reviewed her initially. Big surprise, I don't play a lot of CVs. I'm not exactly a good CV player, as you can probably tell by the background footage here. But yeah, I was dead wrong about the Hornet once in my initial review of her. But, man, I finally figured out how to get her to work, and she is quite the powerhouse. So the Hornet of, well, the Pacific War fame, Doolittle Raid, and I am so glad Wargaming managed to fit that, you know, that spotlight of her history into the game. So if you guys don't know, the Hornet was the carrier that was the ship that carried the B-25s across the Pacific to carry out the Doolittle Raid. The Doolittle Raid was a response, if you will, for Pearl Harbor. It was meant to, you know, let the Japanese know that they were not, in fact, untouchable on their island over there on the other side of the Pacific. Didn't really do a whole lot of damage because in order to get the B-25s to take off from a carrier, which, if you don't know, you know, medium and heavy bombers aren't really ships, aren't really aircraft you would launch off of aircraft carriers, right? They had to be stripped down to essentially just as they often get called, a flying gas can. I think each bomber carried maybe 8 bombs, if that. So the raid on Tokyo didn't really do a whole lot of damage, but it was a bit of a morale boost for the U.S. after, of course, the devastating loss at Pearl Harbor. So, in-game, they've managed to get this to work with the Hornet by giving her a squadron of B-25s as a tactical squadron. Tactical squadrons don't regenerate in the same fashion as your normal squadrons do. Normal squadrons, you have a amount of planes in reserve, amount of planes on deck, of course the planes in your squadron as well. As they get shot down, they get replenished by the planes that you have available to you. The planes in reserve are constantly being spawned in via a timer. You got a lot of little mechanics down there putting up planes together with boxes of parts, right? That's how it works nowadays. But anyway, yeah. So the Hornet gets her B-25s as a tactical squadron. So every couple of minutes, you get a flight of B-25s that have a really, really nice reticle. It's a nice round reticle, so you can approach the ship from pretty much any angle, and you're going to get a nice, even dispersion pattern. And with the HE bombs you get from the B-25s, it's so easy to do, especially the battleships, an easy 10k HE alpha damage. You're probably going to be setting a couple of fires here and there along the way. So that gives the Hornet a great tool in her toolkit. Now, of course, the price for that is that you get, tier 6 aircraft when it comes to the torpedo aircraft and the AP level bombers. So, yeah, you get some lackluster squadrons there, but again, every couple of minutes you get those B-25s up, and they can really, really put in the work. And, her other two squadrons aren't exactly terrible by any stretch of the imagination either. They're more than serviceable, but you do have to be very wary about the fact that you are essentially flying tier 6 planes instead of tier 8 planes in a tier 8 ship that does, of course, get tier 8 matchmaking, where the tier 8s can, of course, see tier 10. So it can be a little rough there, but again, those B-25s really come in clutch for the Hornet. All right, going on our way down now to number 2. We have the tier 10 Japanese battleship, the Yamato. The Yamato, man, it would have been something to see this ship in real life. Of course, it did not survive the war. It had Operation 10 Go. The Yami didn't really do too much in, the real-life war because, didn't really want to risk the ship. You only got 2 of them. And, due to the limited resources available to the Japanese, you can't really replace, a ship of the caliber of the Yami or the Musashi. So for a good portion of the war, they didn't really do much. Yami got the nickname, the Hotel Yamato. Had air conditioning, though, which was pretty cool. Yeah, a pun fully intended there. But I mean, she did get to do a couple of things. She, of course, faced down the Johnston with Taffy 3, right? If you haven't seen our cinematic on that, you can check that out. And, of course, you have Operation 10 Go, where she was subsequently pummeled to death by the U.S. Navy with, 300-something planes, a couple hundred bombs, dozens of torpedoes is what it took to finally sink her. So, again, a ship with some real-life history. That in-game is a really solid ship, because unlike in, the real world, you don't have to worry about having to completely rebuild your Yami after she gets sunk in game, so you can send them into battle and see how she, might have done against real life ships. Of course, it is, just a video game after all, but some people get a little bit too dug into that. But either way, what I'm saying is, it's fun to play her in game with her 18.1-inch guns with the ability to overmatch 32 millimeters of armor. She's a great mid to long range sniper that, with her health, can certainly be a nice, late game pusher if need be. While, the Yami has her infamous Yami cheeks, where she can be pinned by shooting just below her number 2 turret or just underneath her number 3 turret from the rear. Yeah, you're going to get Citadel there. But, if you play her right and you sit at, mid-ish to longish range for a good portion of the match, and you push up toward the late game, you have a tier 10 battleship here with almost 100,000 HP in reserve, and that's some serious health coming towards you at the end of the game. And of course, with her 18.1-inch guns, the ability to simply not care about most ships' extremities, you can just punch through the nose of more than a few ships. The Yami is also really, really good once you get her unique upgrade, which gives her an additional buff to her dispersion, which then gives you very, very accurate guns. See, the Japanese dispersion pattern is really, really infuriating at times. It's not like the American dispersion, which is fairly consistent, although, again, wonky at times. The Japanese dispersion is just all over the place when it comes to their battleships. That's in order to balance the fact that the Japanese battleships have either one or two things going for them up the tech line. You either have a decent number of decent caliber guns for your tier, meaning you have like 10 guns, like the of course the name just leaves my head when I really need to talk about it in a video. The tier 8, the Yamagi, the Yamagi has 10 16-inch guns at tier 8. That's a good amount of guns at tier 8, but they're 16-inch guns, fairly average for that tier. And then of course you have the Yami, which has 9 18.1-inch guns at tier 10. That used to be the largest caliber of gun in the game, but not so much anymore, huh, fellas? But yeah, so, they would balance it out by giving the guns, a little wonky dispersion. But with the Yami's unique upgrade, you can really rein in that dispersion, and now you have a very accurate set of guns that still don't care about armor today, right? Because 32mm is still the last major threshold in the game. So while, yeah, there's some ships at tier 10 that have bigger guns than the Yami, she still got it, and is, in my opinion, the best of the big gun battleships, if you will, not counting the super ships because they don't deserve to be counted. But she's an amazing ship. She is my second most played ship in this game, and I love her. So again, you want a really good big gun battleship, look no further than the Yami. Just be mindful that her turrets take, a calendar year to go from one side of the ship to the other side of the ship. And finally, at number 1, we have the Tier 9 American battleship, the Wisconsin. Man, the Wisconsin, we were all speculating what we could added first out of the remaining Iowa sisters, the Wisconsin or the New Jersey. And, well, Wargaming went with the Wisconsin, and thankfully they did her justice. She is, essentially a turbocharged Iowa, moved up to tier 10, with an improved heal over the Iowa, and, of course, well, slightly improved heal over the Iowa because of her HP. But anyway, she also has the funny combat instructions where once you land a certain number of shells on the enemy ships, you get a boost to the reload time of your guns and a boost to the cooldown time of your consumables. So that helps you, kind of keep up the pace at tier 10 with a tier 9 ship, which is very much welcomed with the Wisconsin. Also, her shells are a little bit different than the standard Iowa/Missouri shells. Essentially, they have better pins at longer range, and they fly through the shell. They fly through the air a bit faster than your standard Iowa battleship shell because of their improved air drag coefficient. So it's a more long-range geared Iowa than your standard tier 9 Techline Iowa or your tier 9 premium Missouri, right? So again, better suited for tier 10. And what was really exciting about the Wisconsin is that she was a dockyard ship, a ship that many of us got for, well, a couple of us got her for free because we already had the West Virginia 44 in our ports. But it was a dockyard ship where you only had to pay a very small bit of cash after grinding your way through the dockyard. Plus, the ship was available during the time that asymmetrics was available, and you could use that to grind out the Wisconsin as well in the dockyards. What I'm saying is Wargaming, really hit it out of the park here with the Wisconsin and, of course, her event. Of course, Wisconsin is one of the Iowa sister ships, serving all the way from World War II through the Korean War, then into the Cold War when they were brought back and modernized, and, well, might that be the way that we're going to get the New Jersey? Well, with missiles seeming to be in testing again in the Star Trek event, who knows? Maybe, right? But, it's very cool that, this is a ship that existed in real life that you can go see today in Virginia. You will walk on the decks. I've been to her. She's very cool. If you ever can get to Nauticus and visit the Wisconsin, that's in Norfolk, I would highly encourage you to do so. It's so cool to go, see that ship in real life and then come back to your computer and play her in World of Warships. And she is, again, a very excellent tier 10 battleship. One that I still play a ton today because I love her so much. So guys, those are my top 5 historical ships that don't suck in World of Warships. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Was a very, very hard list to whittle down, fellas. Let me say, there are more than a few historical ships that are very good, but I think these are among the best of the best in my humble opinion. Again, you are not I am not you. Our opinions are different, so again, let me know what you guys think about my list in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.